In this video, we are going to be creating a Power BI report from end to end. We're going to be creating a Power BI report from end to end, but it's going to actually be a case study on Delta Airlines. That's right. We're going to have a case study. We're going to use it as a case study on Delta Airlines. Now, look, to be totally transparent with you, this is not going to be Delta data. This is not going to be Delta Airlines official data. As a matter of fact, I don't even have access to Delta Airlines official data. But me and my team have created a data set that will allow us to be able to utilize, create a Power BI report utilizing simulated data that a Delta Airlines department would probably use. So we just like creating real life scenario type Power BI reports, so that when you create those Power BI reports, you're creating something from end to end, and you're actually getting some idea of what this thing looks like in a real life scenario. But before we get started, like this video and subscribe to this channel. And don't forget, we've got the QR code here on the screen. If you want access to our free webinar that's every Thursday from 7:30 p.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. Now, I must say that sometimes I have to move the times around or move the days around. But if I do have to move the times or the days around, I will let you know that information up front. You will have plenty enough time to know that it has been rescheduled. But again, we have a free webinar from 7:30 p.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time every Thursday. In addition to, you get access to our free newsletter. That's right. Not only do you get access to our free webinar, you get access to our free newsletter. What comes in the newsletter? Well, it gives you the information about the updated times for the webinar. And it also gives you the access to the Power BI job portal. That's right. We have our very own Power BI job portal. It's not a job portal for any other profession. It's only for Power BI, and you only get access to our portal via being in our community, and our community has access to our newsletter. So therefore, don't forget to remember, scan the QR code, click the link, and enter your email, and that will give you the official access to our Power BI newsletter. With that said, let's get busy. Let's move right on over into our Power BI report that we are creating for today. Welcome back to a Power Money Monday, That's right. Today is Power Money Monday. We are going to be learning how to create a Power BI report. And today we are using another Fortune 500 company. That company today is going to be none other than Delta Airlines. That's right. We're going to be using Delta Airlines today to create a Power BI report. I'll share the final report with you here real quick as I go over some things, but I want to make sure. Yeah. Let's see. There we go. So I want to make sure you understand what is going on here. So here's the deal. I am not an employee or manager. I don't work for Delta Airlines, however that's called, employee, employer. I do not work for Delta Airlines. I do not own Delta Airlines stocks. Delta Airlines, as of right now, today, is not paying me in any kind of way, monetarily or with any other types of gifts, to talk about their company. I am solely using this report to show you how to create a Power BI report using a Fortune 500 company, a company that you've probably already heard of before. I have flown on Delta Airlines, but it has been a long time. It's been a long time. As a matter of fact, Delta Airlines was the first airlines that I flew on when I flew with my grandmother way back in the day, when I was probably this big or that big, or however big you want to call it. But as of today, I am only using this as a report, as a sample project to show you how to create a Power BI report. Here's the deal. We are going to be talking about the official, the original, the actual annual report from Delta Airlines as a means of researching a company before we build out a Power BI report. We are actually going to be looking at the Delta Airlines website. It is the official, the actual Delta Airlines website. So we're going to be looking at their website. We're going to look at their annual report, and we're going to actually be looking at some of their stocks, their current stocks, historical stocks, and stuff like that, based off of Yahoo Finance. Now, I do not own any Delta Airlines stocks, but I buy some. I don't know. I mean, but at the end of the day, that's not what this video is about. This video is to show you how to create a Power BI report. It's not to encourage you to go out and buy Delta Airlines, invest in the Delta Airlines, or even apply to work for Delta Airlines. That's not what this is about. This is about learning how to create a Power BI report, and the company that we're using as an example is Delta Airlines. Now, we will be using a data set. We will be using a data set to build out the data to build out the visualizations that we're seeing here in this Power BI report. But it is not official Delta Airlines data. It is not official Delta Airlines data. It is data that myself and my team came up with that is very similar to data that an airline such as Delta Airlines or one of their other competitors or another carrier in the industry could probably use. But at the end of the day, again, it is not going to be official Delta Airlines data. With all that said and everything understood, let's get busy. So as we see here, we're looking at page from Yahoo Finance for Delta Airlines. So here's the deal. Typically, I kind of like to start. Well, I ain't gonna say I like to, but previously I've been using the website and the annual. Well, I've been using the website and the annual report along with the stock data from Yahoo Finance. I'm kind of doing a little bit of a reverse order here because what I want to do, typically I would do the stock last, I think. I'm not sure. I think I'm going to do the stock last. But I'm going to do the stock first, given that it's on Yahoo Finance. And then I'm going to move over into the second phase of research, which would be on the website, and then move into the final phase of research being in the investor the investor report. And the reason why I'm doing that is because that investor data is actually found on the website. So I don't want to bounce. I think before, I'm not sure, I'm getting a little old, but I think before I would do the website, I would show you how to research on the website and then come back over to the stock and then go back over to the website to the investor relations, or, you know, I think I downloaded the investor relations before. Anyway, bottom line is what we're going to do is we are going to start with the financial information, the stock information first, and then we are going to move over into the website and then go over into the investor report, the investor relations. So here's the deal. Again, as I said before, I just want to make sure everybody understands that I am not an employee of Delta Airlines. I want you to understand that I am not an employee of Delta Airlines. I am simply creating this Power BI report to teach you how to create a Power BI report using a common company such as Delta Airlines, Fortune 500 company such as Delta Airlines. As you can see here, as of the day that I was going over was creating this report, I was using the information. I don't remember the exact time, the day, and April. No, it's not April 8th. I don't remember the exact date that I actually pulled this. A few days ago. It's 3/21 now. It may have been 3/19, 3/18 when I actually created this. Started when I pulled this data, this financial information from Yahoo Finance for Delta Airlines. Now, the reason why I like to use stock information is because stock information has a lot of data that's easily able to manipulate, and it's it's easy for you as a student to understand what's going on when you're looking at the stock. For instance, we're looking up in the top left corner and we see that it says 47.75. I believe that you already know that that's $47.75, which is the value of the Delta Airlines stock as of the day that this report was created or pulled down. That plus plus 1.83 is simply the stock went up $1.83. I want to say it may have been $1.83 from the previous day. Not 100% sure on that, but I believe that's what it was, $1.83 from the previous day, which would have been 3.99%. And what I also like to use in the reports that I create, in the Power BI reports, is the common data that you'll see on a stock report. And we see we have a close, a open, a bid, and an ask price. I don't necessarily get into the bid and the ask because there's some questions and there's some answers that will go along with that. So I don't normally go into that. The 52-week range, which is the range of the stocks over the past 52 weeks, which is 1 year. I do include that information. Sometimes I believe I included it in this particular report as well. The close is what the stock closed at the previous day. The open is how much it opened at on this current day, and we can see that it closed at 45.92, and I think it opened at 46 for the day that I pulled the report down. If you go over to Yahoo Finance, you can do additional research and you can see other things that are going on within Delta Airlines, other questions that are going on within Delta Airlines, other issues that may be surrounding Delta Airlines. You know, the reason why we do research is because when we speak to a client, when we're talking to a client, or we are working for a company, and well, typically in this particular case, Delta would be a client of ours, and you know, we may not know a whole lot about the company. We know that the company is an airline company. We know that you know, it's a pretty old, I can say old, but it's a pretty mature company. It's a Fortune 500 company, but you know, we don't really know the total ins and outs. And even doing the research, you're still not going to know the total ins and outs, but it give you some idea by going in and doing some research. It'll give you some idea as to, you know, who Delta Airlines is today and what Delta Airlines is doing today. That will give you some idea. Doing some research will give you some idea as to what type of information the client is looking for, right? Many times the client really doesn't know what type of information they would like to have in the Power BI report. They don't know, a lot of times they don't even know what information can be provided in the Power BI report. They may have a very general, they may have very general knowledge as to what information can be provided in the Power BI report, but many times they don't really know. I mean, so it's up to you to go in and do some research and see, you know, what you can do to provide that additional wow factor to make the client excited about the report that you've created. So we're just going through the report here, and we're just going through some of the discussion areas that, you know, individuals are having in regards to Delta Airlines and the stocks. I think I told you before, well, maybe I didn't. Market cap. Market cap is something, not necessarily market cap, but volume is something that we do add in our reports, and the volume basically is the amount of shares outstanding times the share price. That's pretty much the volume. Again, we don't try to get too deep. Like, as you see here, we're looking into the financial data here. We don't try to get too deep in this class, teaching you how to build out financial data, because building out financial data, being financial statements and things like that, it gets pretty complicated. So what we try to stick with is looking at what we have here is what would be, I said before, the 52 week history, the stock history. So basically, so it looks like this data was actually pulled on March 19th. And the reason why I know is because the last data shown here is March 19th. And then we're going to go all the way through for 52 weeks, and we're going to see we're going to see the stock history of Delta Airlines over the past 52 weeks. And basically what that allows us to do, it gives us just gives us data to work with. And that's the primary goal here, is to have data to work with and understanding the data that we're working with. And typically, again, as I said, the most common elements within the stock that we're looking at is we're going to be looking at the date. We're going to be looking at the open price, the high, the low, the close, and the volume of the stock. And this particular stock, again, is the stock from Delta Airlines. So we're just scrolling through here. We're just researching. We're just seeing, you know, what is this data that we're looking at. I believe that the stock was somewhere around 47.50 on the 19th, if I can remember correctly from our from just a few minutes ago, as we were looking at the the stock price, and we were getting started. And here we can see, you know, just roughly over the past year, it's been bouncing around somewhere in there from, looks like the lowest I've seen has been about $43 and some change. And the highest I've seen has been $48.50 and some change. As far as the open, and pretty much open, low, close, open, low, high, and close have all been somewhere about that same. Looks like the volume is bouncing somewhere between 5-7 million. I see we have 10 million, 15 million here and there. I see a 19 million. But, you know, again, not necessarily trying to understand the ins and outs of finance, but understanding how finance can be visualized inside of a Power BI report. 0.15 being the dividend that was paid out on June 30th, October 10th, again, 0.15. I don't think that we included the dividend payouts or any types of dividend averages within the Power BI report that we created here. But this is just something to be of note, that, you know, given that you have the data, you can provide that data as well, definitely if it was provided inside of a data set. Now, as I said initially, we do have a data set that we are using, which is not the official data set of Delta Airlines. We will be using, you will see this data again, which is official stock data over the past 52 weeks for Delta Airlines. So we'll be using that data, and we'll be combining that data. And the way that we bring all that data together is by date. We'll bring all that data together by date, and you'll actually get to see that as well when we are building out the Power BI report. So we are over here in the Delta Airlines website, Delta Airlines, or delta.com, I believe it's called, or the URL is. So we're just over here in the website, and what I like to do is when I review or research a company, I like to go into their website, see, you know, what the company is about. I already know that Delta is an airline, right? So, you know, their primary deal is selling tickets, and you know, that's their business, is selling tickets for airlines, right? I mean, it's no secret there. I think one thing that is worth noting is the airlines industry is probably the leader when it comes to having virtual memberships, if that makes any sense. And I know that they don't really call them virtual memberships, but getting flight miles, you know, the more you fly, the more miles you get, and rewards miles and stuff like that. They were doing that way back when. Many other industries now are, well, I'm gonna say even most, but definitely many other industries now are using that concept of rewards. For instance, you know, you can go to your favorite restaurant now, and that restaurant may have a mobile app, and you may earn free points or free meals or free drinks or ice cream, whatever the case may be. You may earn something free when you spend X amount of dollars, right? I know when I go to the nutrition store and I buy different types of nutrition, protein or gainers, stuff like that. The more you spend, the more you're gonna save. I know I've gone to the counter before, and the counter, it may have been total may have been $110. I may have had $20, in rewards points, deduct that, and hey, now I've got a $20 in savings. Same thing going to different stores. But the airline industry has had that concept going for a long, long time, and they've been treating their customers, and passengers with different perks based on rewards miles. So that's something that you want to know, you want to take into consideration when you are building a Power BI report for a company such as airline company, because that is something that is important to them. We're looking here now, and we see that now again, I haven't flown Delta in a long time. Last time I flew Delta, they didn't have seats like this, but they've got different rewards, different levels of I'm gonna say memberships, but passengers can either purchase or they can earn the right to have these different perks. Now I don't know if these seats are standard seats with Delta today, or if they are all upgrades. It looks pretty standard. But I mean, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just only going off of what I see. But so the only thing I'm doing now is I'm just playing around on their website, seeing what do they have, what do they offer their customers. Not necessarily looking for financial information, because we know what financial information is. I do want to, and I did, as you saw initially, looked at some of the ticket pricing, because, that probably is in the top 9.5, 9.75 out of 10 of the things that someone at Delta Airlines may want to know. Because that's how you do what over there. You calculate revenue. The amount of money that is coming into the company is based on the number of passengers and the ticket price of that passenger. But it looks here that you can probably purchase different types of upgrades. You've got like they had like a workspace that you could use. It looks like they've got extra leg room. If you want extra leg room, they've got TVs in the back of the seats. Not sure if it's TVs in the back of every seat, but that's just something that we want to at least be able to ask in our conversation with the person, whether it be the business analyst or within the meeting that we're speaking with, the person that's giving the instructions for what type of report they're looking for and they're expecting it to get back from us. So again, using stock data from Yahoo Finance is a way to research the company. And here, just going through the website, seeing what all is on the website, seeing all the different perks, seeing the ticket pricing. I'm here in the Dallas area, so I can, when I pull up Delta, it gives me the locations from Dallas to as a departure city to whatever destination. We see that we've got some international destinations, we've got some local, some domestic destinations. That definitely is something that will be important for our Power BI report to see how that domestic and international travel fits into the visualizations for the actual report. Coming over, flight status, my trips, not necessarily having to go through that because I don't really have any trips coming up, travel info, Sky Miles. As I said before, you know, we see here they've got different levels of Sky Miles. You can see how to earn Sky Miles, ways to redeem Sky Miles, buy or transfer miles, travel with miles, Sky Miles with partners, Sky Mile partners, Sky Mile award deals, Sky Mile credit cards, Sky Miles airlines, how to get medallion status. I mean, as I said before, the airline industry is a leader when it comes to the giving reward points or earning reward points. Not only are you able to earn reward points and redeem them with the airlines, you see here you can earn reward points by working with or spending with some of their partners. And those miles are going to be, you know, you're able to use those miles to get discounts, I guess, or get different points or different vouchers when it comes to Delta Airlines. You know, do we need to know anything about the partners, provide anything about the partners in the report? It depends. It depends on, you know, what they ask for. They could ask us for that. They could want to know, you know, which one of our partners, you know, are providing us the greatest amount of benefits when it comes to Sky Miles. Which one is providing the least amount of benefits when it comes to our Sky Miles? That could be information that they want to see, and that sounds like valid information that they could want to see. Those are questions that you should ask, you know, given that you're researching the website. When you go back, because you are going to have a meeting with this client and with the team, and that is a question that you probably want to pose, because somebody may say, I don't really care about, you know, the points with our partners or the miles earned with the partners, but someone else within marketing could say, I want to know. We need to know what is the value of this partner. If this partner is not bringing any value to the organization, we need to probably cancel our partnership with this partner. Or if this partner if this partner is bringing greater value than what we expected, we need to figure out how we can enhance this membership or enhance this partnership. So, you know, those are some things that you could, or the company being Delta Airlines could want to know, and those are questions that you may want to ask. And that's why we research here on the website to see what is important to the client. What do the client find to be information that they like to show their customers, because that could be information as well that they may want to see in greater detail from their data that's coming from their databases, and that's where you're pulling your data from. So at the end of the day, we've looked at researching using Yahoo Finance, the stock industry, using their current and historical stock, and we've looked at the website. Now we're going to go and jump in and look over at their investor relations. So here we are over here, and we are looking at the investor relations for Delta Airlines. Now, the way you would find this report is you would go over to deltaairlines.com, go down to investor relations. And when you go down to investor relations, you're going to go down and you're going to click investor relations, and we are going to either select one of their reports that we want to review. It could either be their 10K report, or it could be one of their 10Q reports. So the 10Q reports, you will find that they are going to have 3 different 10Q reports, and they're going to have one 10K report. The way that this is set up is the SEC, any publicly traded company has to provide reports to the SEC on a quarterly basis. The quarterly basis could be on January, February, March. Well, it could be in any 3-month order. It's up to the companies to determine when their quarter starts and when their quarter ends, but they have to provide that information to the SEC. And each year, for the first 3 quarters, they have to provide a report overall synopsis of what's going on with the company. And there's some information, I can say basic, but there's information that's required by the SEC. But that information does not have to be audited. They don't have to, the company being here, be it Delta Airlines, does not have to have this information audited on a quarterly basis. However, on the fourth quarter, that information does have to be audited by an independent auditor, and it has to be in maximum detail, not greater detail, but it has to be in maximum detail of what is required by the SEC. With that fourth quarter report really is was considered to be the annual report, and the annual report here is what we're looking at is the annual report is a annual report for Delta Airlines. I'm not sure if it's the annual report from last year or the previous year, but it's the annual report. It's the fourth quarter report, the annual report, the most detailed report that's required by the SEC, again, which has to be audited and presented to the SEC. Of course, the financial information is provided, as we can see here, but as you know, we don't necessarily go into this level of detail in our Power BI report. Can we create a Power BI report for financial statements, with financial statements such as this? Absolutely, yes. If you are asked to create a Power BI report with financial statements, being income statements, balance sheets, or whatever other financial statements the client may be asking of you, please know this is a complicated matter. You must go into great detail in order to make sure that just happened here. Yeah, sorry. You need to make sure this is when you're creating a financial statement, a financial report for Power BI. It's not what my great grandmother used to call it a play pudding. It's no play pudding, right? Because this is information, as we can see, that has to be provided to the SEC. Right now, what does it do? Why would they even want to have this information, this level of detail, of financial detail, in a Power BI report? Here's the deal. Depending on how big the company is, there could be several accountants that work in the accounting department that have to create month-end close every month for the finances. And then there's the quarter-end close. And then there's the year-end close. And this could take, depending, when you're talking about a Fortune 500 company, you're talking about a whole department of accountants, right? What Power BI does, Power BI allows an organization when using Power BI for financial reports. Once it's built out, the level of human interaction for creating the month-end close, quarter-end close, year-end close, it doesn't reduce it down to zero. I'm not going to say you're going to go in and you're going to slash all the accountants that's on duty, but you will be able to reassign some of those accountants to other duties, because the report is going directly into the database and it is running on an automated basis. And that's what Power BI is. That's what Power BI does, is providing automation. So given that it's automated, the number of accountants that are used to build or to create month-end, quarter-end, year-end closing documents, closing statements, closing for the accounting department, that number of individuals can be significantly reduced. Again, I'm not saying that you want to slash an organization. We want to slash the entire accounting department. I'm not saying that. No, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that this does turn it in. This does automate the accounting, which will allow an organization to reassign other tasks for some of the individuals, so that they could get maximum, so that the organization could get maximum production out of those individuals as they have been getting in the past. Again, we're looking here at the annual report as a matter of researching and understanding who the company is, what the company does, and even though we already understand who Delta Airlines is, in many cases you're going to have a client and you're not going to know, right? So you are going to want to review their annual report. Now you say, well, Tari, what if they're not a publicly traded company and I don't have access to their information? That could be the case. That could be the case, and you may not receive a copy of their annual information, of their financial information. If that's the case, that's okay. That is totally okay. You may not have access to their data set, to their financial data set in the database, and that's okay. What does that mean? That means you don't have to worry about putting together financial documents, financial statements inside of the Power BI report. You can ask the question when you have your initial meeting with team members and discussing what is needed for or what is expected for Power BI visualizations. You can ask the question, do you expect for financial reporting documents and financial statements to be provided, or financial visualizations to be provided within the report? They will probably say, if they haven't already thought about it, they will probably say, no, we're not worried about the financial visualizations. If that's the case, you don't have to worry about it. Now, they may say, oh, can you create visualizations using financial statements for Power BI? Yes, because we can then automate your systems. Whoa, I didn't know that. Yes, that's exactly what can happen. At that point, somebody may say, hey, well, we need to sit down and talk and figure out, what do you need from us in order to provide that information? With that said, I'm not going to go any further than that into the financial statements, because that is a matter of another conversation, another class video. But what I do want you to understand is that you can use, if it's a publicly traded company, you can use the Power BI document, the annual report document, in order to in order to research for the company. With that said, we have looked at we've looked at the stock report, the financial information from the stock report from Yahoo Finance. We've looked at the website for research. We've looked at the investor relations, the annual report for research. Now we are going to move into creating this Power BI report. So we are jumping over here to the Power BI report, and as we get started, we are going to initially take a look at the model view. And when we go to the model view, we want to just make sure that, initially we're going to look at this calendar table. It's similar to the calendar table we used before. We're going through the calendar table. We only have a select few columns that we're going to add to the calendar table, which includes the year, the date, the month number. Well, not the date's already included, but the month number. And we're going over here to the other table, the aircraft table, so that we can see the different types of aircrafts that we're using within the table. And other information here that we can see on the airport. But then we're going to jump right over into the model view. And what you will realize is when you're creating your model view, when you bring your data sets in, when you come into the model view, it's going to give you a default relationship between tables. So as we can see here, we already have default relationships already set, were already provided by Power BI. The default relationships are not always correct, so you do want to go in and you want to check those relationships. And there may be relationships that you want to use and relationships that you don't want to use. As we see here with the flight table to the ticket table, we're building a relationship between flight and ticket table based on flight ID. As you can see with the calendar table is going to have default relationships to count to dates that are in other tables. Those default relationships within Power BI will allow us to begin building out our initial report. So as we come over to the report view, we're going to bring in a table and we're going to start building out the Power BI report. Of course, as we already know, I like to use the table initially to start the building of the Power BI report. And the primary reason for that is it allows me to see, it allows me to build out a table similar to the table that is in the data view, but it allows me not to have to keep going back and forth between the report view and the data view to see what data is in the data view and then trying to determine, you know, how I want to visualize that data. So here I am bringing in data from the aircraft table. I'm bringing in data from the aircraft table just so we can see, you know, hey, you know, what is the aircraft ID? When is this aircraft used? And when I say used, basically I'm talking about the flight number. So when you go to the airport, typically, let's say for instance, you fly Delta Airlines or whatever airlines you normally fly. Typically, that flight has a schedule. So let's just say say you're flying from Dallas to BWI, which I believe is Baltimore, Washington. Not sure. Please don't shoot the messenger or shoot the teacher when it comes to trying to give you information in regards to airport code. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe BWI is Baltimore, Washington. International Airport. So let's say we're going from DFW, which is Dallas Fort Worth, to BWI at 7 o'clock on a Friday morning. And that may be a routine flight that we take. And say a routine flight could be a flight that we take routinely for work. So at 7 o'clock on Friday morning, this flight leaves out. Well, that flight normally has a flight number, and that flight number could be DAL 207. It could be DAL 338 is what we're using here. Well, actually that's BWI to DCA, but whatever that flight number is, typically it's the same flight number. So just want to, you know, give you some idea of what we're referencing when we're referencing a flight number and we're referencing flight ID. In this particular report, it could be very similar to any other airline that we use or that we fly, any of the competitors of Delta Airlines, doesn't matter. But just building out a table so that we can get an idea of, you know, what the data is. I'm not necessarily trying to build this table as a visualization in this report. And if you're not 100% sure what a visualization is anything that you can see, anything that you can visualize within a Power BI report. That is a visualization. It could be a card, it could be numbers, it could be text. In this particular case, it's a table with data inside of it. But it's not my goal to build this Power BI report based on this visualization of just flight ID, aircraft ID, departure code, and so on that's inside of this table. This is just giving me a reference point to being able to build out other visualizations, seeing what I want to build out or what I want to use as visualizations for this Power BI report. So I'm just going through here now, looking to see what actually is already in here. I see I've got flight ID, aircraft ID, departure code. And departure code basically is the airport code, but it's the departure airport. There is, well, so we go to flight number. That's going to be the number of the flight. Then there's the arrival airport code. The arrival airport code, again, is the airport code, but this time it's referencing the code of the airport that the flight is arriving to. I've got departure airport code, and I believe I had departure airport code. I have departure airport code in here twice, so that's kind of not necessarily a mistake, just didn't realize that I had it in there both times, but again, 2 times. But again, we are not building this table as a visualization for the report. We're only building this table as a visualization so that we can use it as a reference point to build out other visuals so that we don't have to go back and forth trying to see, back and forth between the data view and the report view, trying to see, exactly what is in the data of specific tables. So I am now just coming in out and shortening up, giving an abbreviation for the arrival airport, so that the arrival airport code, so that the title doesn't take up so much space. And just as we have with sum of flight duration, and that's in this table as well. Duration is how long the flight lasts. In this particular case, or how long the flight takes. How long does it take to get from the departure airport to the arrival airport? In this case, we're talking in minutes. In some cases, a flight it may be talking in hours, but in this report, when we talk about duration, we're going to be talking in minutes. So, 639 minutes from Orlando to Phoenix, 137 minutes from BWI to FRA. Not sure exactly where FRA is. If I had to guess, it would be France, but I doubt if it's 137 minutes. But now let me back up. Let me clarify something. Again, this data set is not a true data set. It's not a data set that was provided by Delta Airlines. It's not a data set that was provided by any airline. This is a data set that myself and the team came up with that we felt would be good to use in a report, such as in a Power BI report, such as this particular Power BI report, when it comes to the transportation industry, more specifically the airline industry. So you don't have to go out and compare duration time between Miami and BWI. Miami is MIA and BWI is BWI. You don't have to go out and you don't have to go Google or Chat GPT the duration between the departure airports and arrival airports in this particular Power BI report, because this is not how it was built. This data set is the data set that we created. It could be very similar. It could be very close in time, close in duration, and it may be and it could be very far off. Just understand what that really looks like. So now that I've built out that information, I'm looking at it, I say, hey, this is not the data that I really want to see. This is not the data that I want to compare. So what data do I want to compare? Dates, when we're talking about departing and when we're talking about airports, when we're talking about flying, transportation, dates is something that definitely is important. So we want to compare dates. So I'm coming back over to the data view, and what I'm doing now is I am going to transform some of this data, because I'm looking to see right now, I'm looking to see if there's anything that needs to be transformed. And what I want to see is, do I need to transform the dates? Are there any dates in any of the tables that don't say date, but they need to say date? Or they don't necessarily have they're not associated with a date. So that is definitely probably the most, I didn't say the most important, but one important elements within these tables is to make sure that all the dates actually say date. And as we see here in purchase date, we see the little calendar up there. So we know that the calendar tells us that it's that little calendar icon tells us that that particular column is associated with a date. We've got the purchase date, we've got departure date. We're looking up here, and in the format of the date, we're gonna look to see if we need to change the format of the date. Right now, the format of the date is a 2-digit month, a 2-digit day, and a 4-digit year. It would be ideal to have all of the dates to reference that have the same format. Now that I brought that date in, and we were looking at the actual quarter, month, day, we just did a drop down and we say, hey, we don't want to look at all that information. We just want to see the date. So we went in and we selected we just dropped down and we said, hey, just show me date. Don't show me the month, the quarter, and the year. We can extract that information later if we would like. So now we see that we've got purchase date, departure date, and the table that we're using is the ticket table. We're saying, hey, the ticket was purchased on this date. It was purchased for a departure flight of this date, which is, we're showing purchase date, departure date, the passenger ID. The passenger ID is who is actually doing the flying. So the passenger ID comes from the passenger table, and it gives us an idea of what tells us who is that particular passenger. Again, I am simply using the table to give me some idea of what information I want to show in this report. So now what I'm using here is I'm coming over and I'm grabbing a card. I grabbed the card for passengers. I know that the passenger ID is in this table. So I say, hey, how many passengers do we have? So now what we're doing is we're bringing in passenger into the card, and we're saying count the number of passengers. Then we're saying, hey, we're going to look at the ticket. We're going to look at the ticket. So now we want to count the number of tickets. Of course, if we have 25 passengers, we should have at least 25 tickets. If we have 50 passengers or 5,000 passengers, we should have at least 5,000 tickets. The reason why I say at least is because sometimes a passenger can fly more than one time. One particular, if we were looking at one particular passenger, that passenger could have he could be flying, or he or she could be flying on different days at different times. I mean, when you're a passenger, you can fly as many times as you can afford to fly. So you will need as many tickets. So the ticket count does not have to always equal the passenger count. The ticket count does not have to always equal the passenger count. And now we want to look at ticket price. The reason why we want to look at ticket price is because now we're looking at, we can say, hey, we had 5,000 passengers and the total revenue for those passengers was $4 million. Now that is something that can be associated with one particular passenger. We want to bring in a purchase date slider or some type of calendar visualization, so that we can say if we change different dates, what is the passenger count on different dates? What is the ticket revenue on different dates? And as we see, the slider is interacting with the other visualizations. The calendar visual, or the calendar slider visual is interacting with the other visuals on the page. So just trying to get some spacing, get some, as I say, some real estate design here on the page, not necessarily having the exact thought process as to how this is going to look. Going to bring in the Delta Airlines logo. Again, when you are creating a report for a client, you definitely want to use the client's logo. You want to use the client's colors that they use within their organization. You would want to ask, if the person you're speaking with, if they can give you the colors that the organization uses, or if they can direct you to the person that can give you the colors that the organization uses. A lot of times the person that's the BA, the business analyst, probably or may not know what are the exact colors that can be used within the organization. And it's not just colors, it could be fonts as well. Yeah, so the fonts could get a little tricky, so I don't necessarily delve too much into the fonts, but I do try to keep similar color schemes. I don't try to get the exact color scheme when teaching this class, but I do try to get similar color, try to get the colors as close as possible. Not similar, but as close as possible. So we dive back over here into the data view, and we're just analyzing data again. We're looking at the data. We're trying to see, what data do we really want to bring, or what type of visualizations can we really bring into this report, and what data do we have, what really matters. And here we're analyzing the passenger ID. We see that the passenger ID starts with 1001, and it's going to probably end somewhere in the I don't know, maybe 6,000, because I think it's 5,000 records. So it's going to start at 1,000. So we're looking at ticket ID, we're looking at flight ID, passenger ID, seat number, purchase date, departure date, and ticket price. So again, just trying to, definitely get analyze the passenger ID, making sure that we have, if I had to guess, one passenger ID to every ticket ID. Again, we are in the ticket ID table. We're not in the passenger ID table. Now, if we come back over to the model view, again, as I said before, the model view, a lot of the models were already set in default. With default relationships. So we want to make sure that in our model view that the relationships that are built in our model view fit what we're really looking for, and not necessarily take a chance that the relationship that the default relationships we don't want to take a chance that the default relationships are not going to work. I'm going to say probably 90% of the time the default relationships will work. So if you are struggling with creating models, I will say that you've got about a 90% chance, if you bring in all the correct data, all the correct tables from your database, you got about a 90% chance that the default relationships are going to work. But you've got a 10% chance that the default relationships are not going to work. And what does that mean is, when you start building out your report and you've got interactions going between different visualizations, if the relationships in the model view are not set up correctly, you're going to get bad information returning in your Power BI report, which could result in a lot of things being the extreme consequence and the not so extreme consequence of just being embarrassed, of trying to figure out, hey, why does this report not reflect the correct information, especially if you got all the correct data inside the report. And again, it's not just the data that you're bringing in from the database that has to be correct. The relationships here in this model is probably the most important part of building a Power BI report, because if this model does not work, if this model is not set up correctly, your report is not going to work correctly. It could be pretty, it could have great visualizations, it could have great characteristics of graphic design, but if the model view does not work, your report is garbage, right? So we want to kind of avoid that. So what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to make sure, just trying to give, not necessarily some design, but I'm just trying to make sure that each one of the tables here are about the same size, about the same width. I don't know of any magic way of giving the tables here in the model view a formatting option to where I can say, hey, I want all the tables to be a certain length or width or whatever. So with that said, I spend a lot more time than probably some when it comes to building out my model view, because I like my model view to be kind of pretty, if that makes any sense to you. I like for it to look good, right? And at the end of the day, especially when you have a lot of tables in your model, you got a lot of tables and you get, halfway, 3/4 way through your project, and you got to come back and analyze relationships and stuff like that, it really could become a strain trying to understand where different things are. So if you build your model out, and I like to build my model out in the star schema, to start it at the center of the star, I've got the flight table, because everything is pretty much based around flights here. And that would be whatever the center of your star is going to pretty much be whatever your report is centered around theoretically. So as I went through my relationships, I was testing to see whether each table was related by flight ID or passenger ID, or whatever the case may be. Most of the time, I think I built this report out primarily on flight ID, because I believe every table, the major tables did have flight ID. So now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to, do what I call creating some real estate, trying to see, where do different visuals fit? Where do they line up best? So now I'm just playing around with spacing and design of the actual location of different visualizations. This is important because your Power BI report to most is going to be the first thing they're going to see is the visualization, the report itself, and they're going to want to. You're going to want people to see to have to see the aesthetics of the report of being pleasing to the eye, right? It's just most of the individuals that's going to interact with this report or interact with your Power BI report, they are going to look at it almost as if it's a website, if it's a web page. And, you want to go to a web page that is, set up with some graphics or some visualizations that make sense to you and not have stuff just all over the place. You got a car sitting here and a plane sitting here, and you got some text here in the middle, and you got a guy and a girl at the top holding hands. That's not what you want. You want this thing to be aesthetically pleasing. So, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to see, what visualizations do I want? And two, where do I want the visualizations to be placed? And, it really could, building out, for the time that we're spending right here, building out this Power BI report, I've gotten questions before asking T, how long does it take for you to build this report, or my manager giving me the report and saying, hey, you've got a week, or you got 2 weeks, you got 40 hours or 80 hours, whatever the case may be. It takes a lot longer than the time that we're placing here to really build out a Power BI report, because one, you've got to make sure that the model is set up correctly. You've got to make sure that the model is doing what you need the model to do, and that the interactions of the table, the interaction of the visualizations are interacting appropriately based on the model, and that all your transformations within your data is set up correctly as well. So it takes time. This is not just something that you just get in here and you just start playing when you throw visualizations and data inside of visualizations. Say, hey, I got a Power BI report. No, this thing really does take some time. And I guess where I'm going with that is, when you get on a project and you see that you've got, let's just say, 5 to 10 tables, and the client is saying, hey, I need this back in 2 days. Your response should not be that I'm going to have it back in 2 days. You've got to be able to put that thing together. You've got to be able to check it. You've got to be able to verify. You've got to be able to analyze it. I'm going to say anything with at least 5 tables is going to take you probably, you need to put at least 3 days of work on that, and then a day to analyze that data and to visualize. So you're looking at, if you're talking about 5 tables inside of a data set. Now, with that said, it could be as complicated as you make it, as complicated as being requested, but I don't want you to think that you can just jump right in there and say, hey, okay, cool, here's the Power BI report, I'm done. No, don't do that, because the integrity of your work then will be questioned. So what I'm doing here is I am just trying to see, one, what visualizations do I want to use, and two, what data makes the most sense to use within the visualizations that I am trying to use. And of course, when you're talking about a clustered column chart, I would say a default theme for a clustered column chart would be to have the date running across the x-axis, and then whatever volumes you're using, or every values you're using within that clustered column to be used on the y-axis. And you're going to find that when you start throwing in different data values for different types of visualizations, they just don't work, right? It just doesn't make sense. And when you put it in there and you look at it, you realize, like, what is this thing saying? What am I really trying to say? So that's something that you've really got to take into consideration. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to grab the line clustered column chart combination. And actually, that's a line stacked. I really don't like using line stacked. I'm going to grab this line clustered. The line stacked and the line clustered look the same. They look very similar, but they're really different. You can play with both of them to get an idea of what the differences really are between the two. But I like to use the clustered column rather than the stacked column, whether I'm using the stacked column by the clustered column by itself, or the clustered column line combination. Either one. I always like to use the clustered column more. So now I'm coming in, I'm bringing in data, and I'm showing the data by year. So the dates that we have are 2022, 2023, and 2024. Now I'm going to bring, I use the count of passenger ID on the y-axis, and I use the count of flight ID, or the count of passengers on the y-axis, and the count of flights on the y-axis. The count of passenger on the y-axis and count of flight ID on the for the x-axis I use the year, and for the y-axis I use the count of passengers, and for the y-axis line I use the flight ID. That's why we have a column and we have a line. Let me say it again. For the x-axis, I used year. For the y-axis column, I use count of passenger. And for the y-axis line, I use flight. So now we're able to compare the count of passengers to the count of flights based on the year, based on the calendar year. So we're just trying to analyze what's going on analyze what's going on here in the ticket table, where we have the columns of ticket ID, flight ID, passenger ID, seat number, purchase date, departure date, and ticket price. It would be good for all the dates to have the same formats, being 2-digit month, 2-digit day, and 4-digit year. Analyzing the passenger ID table, where we have passenger ID, first name, last name, and loyalty number, with of course their loyalty number being the program in which that particular passenger is enrolled in. As we saw before, when we were doing our research, we saw that the loyalty programs were, I don't remember the exact loyalty, the exact programs that Delta Airlines has, but the different Sky Miles that you would be enrolled in as a passenger. As for the loyalty program we have here, we have a diamond, platinum, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and diamond for our loyalty programs labeled 1 through 5. Coming back over to the model view again, sizing the model view, sizing the different tables within the model view so that they all are approximately the same size. What we didn't do initially was bring in the stock table and build out the relationship. So we now have the stock table that we have brought in, and now we are able to analyze the stock data as well. And of course, we know that on this particular view, the stock data is real view based on the date and time that this report was created. Is not a running real-time report unless we refresh this report. If we refresh this report and we add the dates in, add the current dates in, this report can be a running live report, a running real-time live report based on stock data that we have here in this report. The stock data, again, is real data. It is real data based on Delta Airlines stock prices. The other data that we have, the different data sets, are not real data. They're simulated data that we've created, myself and my team, we've created to build out this particular report. We created to build out this particular report in reflection of Delta Airlines or any other airlines that we would like to use to pretty much create a simulated Power BI report. Once again, Delta does not pay us to, or pay me to, or get paid Power of the BI to analyze or create any simulated data or hype up their program, anything like that. We're only using this strictly for teaching purposes. So we brought in the stock data, and we are looking at where we are currently with the build out of the report. Of course, you know, what I like to emphasize is on a routine basis is the real estate, the design, the location of the different visuals that are on the page. The most important aspect of the Power BI report is having good data. If the data is not good, if the data is trash in, trash out, the report is garbage. I don't care what the report looks like, the report is garbage. But once we get in good data, and we know that this data is good because we brought in the data that was for the stock data that was the current data as of the date of building this report. So we know that data is good. The data that we built out in the data set, we know that data is good. And then to make the visualizations interact with each other, we have built out relationships between each table, primarily using the date table, and the flight, primarily using the date table to build relationships with those tables that have dates, and then building relationships with those tables that have a flight ID. So we know that this report is going to be, I'm going to say 99.99999% accurate based on date and flight ID. I don't like to say 100% for anything, but for the most part, you know, we know that this is going to be a good report. It's going to be the data it provided and the interactions provided is going to demonstrate good information based off of the calendar table and the flight ID. Once we have that information, we know that those relationships are accurate, the data is accurate, the relationships are accurate. Now it's a matter of creating that real estate portion, that graphic design portion of the Power BI report, so that now that the report can have that visualization appeal, that aesthetic appeal that you'll get when we go into a go into a website. Because at the end of the day, what this is really going to look like when it comes down to it, it's going to look like a page from a website or the page of a website. We're not going to build a embedded report, but we are going to build a report, a Power BI report that's going to be very similar to a report or a page on a website that has data. So what we're doing here is we brought in the card, and in the card, in each one of the cards, now we're bringing in that data that we were able to use from the stock stock table that we just brought in, and we built the relationship over in the model view. We brought in the open, the low, the high, and now we have the close. The open, the low, the high, and the close. And now we're taking out average of. The reason why we use average rather than sum is because if we use sum, we would be summing the entire columns of the open for every day over the last 365 days. If we use low, we would be using the low column. We would be summing the low of each one summing the low of the column for low in the stock table. Same for high, same for average, same for close. Again, what that looks like is there is a column that says high, and then in the column that says high, it's showing the high of each particular day, each day over the last 365 days, because as you remember, when we analyzed the stock table, it showed us the records for highs for 365 days. If we sum the entire column, for instance, we sum the entire column for high, it's going to give us, we're going to add all of the highs for each day. We'll add the high for each day over the last 365 days. So we had, I think it was like maybe 13,000 or something like that it came out to be for the sum. Well, in order to make that number more realistic, what we did was the aggregation that we used was average rather than sum. So we said we got the average of those days. So now we have what that price would be, or what that cost would be on that particular day, or within that particular range, the average high, the average open, the average low, average high, average close over that particular time period. So here again, as I was saying, in this report, I didn't necessarily, I wasn't necessarily using the table that we have that's showing passenger ID as a visualization, even though it is a visualization and we can see it, so it is being shown. But basically what I like to do is I like to start out with building out a table so that I would be able to see, what data is in this table, so that I can, so that I won't necessarily have to go back and forth in the data view trying to see what the actual table looks like. Now I'm just testing out if the visualizations are actually interacting with one another. And of course, as we see here, these visualizations are interacting with one another. If we slide the slider to a particular day, the date range changes. If we slide the slider calendar to particular days, it's showing us what that value is over particular days. If there is no value, it's showing blank. There is a way that we can take the blank out and make the blank a 0. There's a way to do that. But right now we're just trying to make sure that the visualizations are actually interacting with one another on this report. So coming back over, we're just looking and analyzing the programs, and we have the loyalty program ID. What we're going to do now is we're going to create a new table. And creating the new table, we just call the table _measures. Basically what we're creating this table for is we want to create measures. And basically measures are simply calculations that we would use to customize the report, to build out more customized visualizations, right? So we're going to create a table called measures. And in this table, we're just going to add we're going to create measures, create calculations, and we're going to put those measures in that table. And this is basically more so for an organizational standpoint. We could create these measures anywhere. The thing about measures, when you create a measure in Power BI, you can use the measure anywhere inside the report. When you create a calculated column in Power BI, you can only use that calculated column in whatever table that calculated column was created in. So we are creating a table and we're calling it open, and we're saying open equals sum of delta stock data open plus 0. And so the reason why we are creating this measure is because when we have open, when we have the stock value of open, we want that value. We want to show that value, and when we show that value, for instance, let's say that our stock data started on March 19, 2025. Well, it was the date that we ran. It was March 19, 2025. Well, if we look at the historical data of that stock, it's going to give us March 19, 2025, and it's going to show us every day the open price every day from March 19, 2025, going backwards to March 19, 2024. If we go to March 18, 2024, that data is not in our stock table because we only went back 1 year. If we went back 2 years, it would be here, but we only went back 1 year. So that data is not there for that stock table. Since that data is not there, if we select that date, what the card or what the visual is going to show us is it's going to show us blank. It's going to say blank because we don't have that value. If we go back 2 years, we don't have that value. The date that we actually pulled the records for was March 19, 2024. 2025. So if we pull if we have a visualization with a calendar slider on it, or that's showing value by date, and we're selecting that date using a calendar on the visualization, a visual using calendar. If we say we want to see March 20th, 2025, it's not going to show us that information either because we don't have that information. Since it does not have the information, it's just going to say blank. That visualization is going to say blank. So what we don't want to see on the report, we don't want the report to show blank. So in order for it not to show blank, we're creating a measure, and that measure is going to be more customized to this particular report so that that value is not showing blank. Now, what we're doing here is we're coming back over to the model view and we're creating a folder for our table. So we selected one of the measures, and the measure we selected, it doesn't matter which one. We can select either one of the stock measures that we created, and we're calling that folder. We're calling the folder display folder. Now, since we've created a display folder, since we called it a stock data folder, now we can copy each one of the measures or we can drag and drop each one of the measures into this folder called stock data. So all the data that we create based on the stock table, we can drag those measures into the folder called stock data. So now it gives us a cleaner look, a cleaner feel when we go into the data view and we go to select and we go to utilize our measures. Because we don't just have to use this measure, and we don't have to just use this measure on this page. And a Power BI report can be more than one page. So what we could do is we could have 10 pages, and anywhere in the report we can use this measure. We don't have to create this folder. We don't have to create this folder in order to use the measure. This measure can be created in any of the tables, but given that it is a measure and we know we may want to use it in other locations and other tables, we just, for organizational purposes, we created the folder to place the measures in. Now that we do know that we've got good data, now that we know that we have good relationships, as we see here, if we bring in this open, it's going to show us the sum of the open, which is the 13.22 thousand, which means we added all the open prices for every day from March 19, I believe, 2025 to March 19, 2024. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to verify that the measure that we use does work. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in and let's see here. We want to get the average. So it'll be that price. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. So we got stock data, open equals sum delta stock data open plus 0. Let's use this value. Let's use this this measure instead of the measure that we used. Let's see if that one will work, because that we couldn't get the average using that. So here we go. Now, using the measure we created here, if that data is not within that date, if the data is not within that date, it is going to show 0. Looking at my calendar table, I've got a date column, a year column, a month number column, and a month. And the values that I have, the values that I have for date in the calendar table goes from 2020, 2021, I believe, to 2026. And the reason why this date range is so long is because each one of the tables has a different date value. And the actual stock data has only dates for 2024 and 2025, and is even more specific that the stock table only has data from, I believe, the date we pulled this report, or built out this, we used the reports from the reporting from Yahoo Finance for the historical data was from March 19th, 2024 to March 19th, 2025. So the accuracy of the stock data is only going to be for 1 year. And again, the stock data is real information. The other data is information that we created. So it's I'm not gonna say impossible, but it's almost impossible to create a perfect data set of matching dates, given that one set of dates are dates that we created and the other set of dates are dates from the stock table. Now, one way that we could do that is we know that the report covers dates from 2021 to 2026. So we could have gone and we could have used all of the dates, the stock dates from 2021 to 2025, which would give us current information back to 2021, or we could have used only the dates in the data set that we created in our simulated data set. We could have only used dates that were consistent with the stock date. But that would have taken a lot of time to try to coordinate and manipulate and make everything work out the way it needs to work. That's not the purpose of this report. The purpose of this report is for teaching. The purpose of this report is for teaching. So what we wanted to do here was give you an idea of how to build a Power BI report and how the visualizations interact with one another based on the calendar dates. And from there, I mean, it's pretty simple for you to be able to understand how to create the report and then build out the visualizations. But what another teaching point here as well is when you have a visualization with i.e. with a card that has a card and the value is showing blank and it's based on an aggregation. creating a measure and adding zero. And there's other ways to do it. But the way that I do it, which is most simply simplified for me, is to use that aggregation, add zero, and then anytime that value for that particular card visualization is blank, rather than showing blank or BL, it will show zero. So now what I'm doing is all of the original open, highs, lows, and closes that we used initially, I am taking that out, and I'm going to use the measure that we created for open, high, low, and close, so that rather than the card showing blank, the card will show zero. The primary question that I get when it comes to signing up for my class is, hey, how much money can I make after I get out of your class? And the salary range for a Power BI developer is anywhere from $80,000 to $130,000. Now, those are not national statistics. Those are not statistics coming from a data analyst or a data programmer. Those are numbers that I know individuals who are making a minimum amount at $80,000 and individuals making a maximum amount of $130,000. Now, if I put my math hat on, I would say that the median income is somewhere around $104,000 to $108,000, and the mean income is about $115,000. Okay, and that's annually per year. So, the next question is, why do you charge so much for your program, Power of the BI? My program, Power of the BI, can be found at powerofthebi.com, no pun intended, and it's a shameless plug. Okay, so here's the deal. I don't think that the price that I charge for my course is too expensive. I'll tell you off top, it's $24.99. That's $2,499. I don't think that is too expensive because you're going to make more money on your first check than you're paying for this course. Now, with that also said is, if you don't want to take the course, hey, you don't have to. And here's the deal. I'm not being arrogant about it. What I'm saying is, I give all my information away for free. I totally give away everything, all of my knowledge. I download it to our YouTube channel at Power of the BI. Go over to the YouTube channel, Power of the BI, and I download all of the information that I have about Power BI. Now, if you want that individual attention, yeah, you have to take the course. Now, what I will also say is that there are major institutions out there now that are starting to have data analytic, starting to provide data analytic courses, or 8-week, 12-week, 16-week, maybe even 24-week data analytic courses to their curriculum or to their programs. And their programs are significantly more than what my course is at Power of the BI. At the same time, they have limitations as to how many individuals they allow into their course, and they have limitations as to what type of individuals, what skill set, what educational backgrounds that they would want to bring or allow individuals to take their course. I don't have any limitations. My only limitation is you got to want it more than I do. I've already got mine. You've got to want it more than I do. If you're trying to make some changes, if you're trying to do some things differently in your life, and you think that Power BI can afford you to make those changes, hey, that's what we're here for. But if you don't want to pay for the course, again, go over to my YouTube channel, Power of the BI, and I'm telling you, I am downloading everything for free. I'm giving you all the information. I'm giving you game, right? I'm giving you game. So with that said, for those that are interested in taking my course, Power of the BI, go over to my website, powerofthebi.com, powerofthebi.com, and sign up today. I look forward to seeing you where? In class. When I see you again in class. So here we are coming to not necessarily close, but getting very close to finishing. I guess close and finishing is about the same thing, finishing up the project. So now we have the stock data that we are getting accurate information on, based on the visualizations that we created, based on the measures that we created. Now it's a matter of this final piece of, how do we want this report to look aesthetically? How do we want this report to actually feel? So now again, what I'm doing is bringing in that clustered column chart and trying to see which visualizations do I really want to use. Now, when I build a Power BI report, I'm getting somewhat of an echo, so I'm just trying to turn the volume down just a little bit, and I think that may be too low. Let's see, here we go, testing. And I'm gonna turn it just a little bit more. Testing. We'll leave it right here. So when we bring in excuse me. We're bringing in the visualizations to test to see what's the best visual to create. I was about to say, when I create a Power BI report, I kind of use a rule of thumb. I don't like to use, or I try to stay around 10 visuals on a report. Sometimes, 10 is a good number. Sometimes it's not a good number, but my idea of what I want to see on a Power BI report is anywhere from 6 to 10 visuals. Now, those visuals include everything that you can see. Anything that you can see is a visual, right? Because seeing is visual. So basically what I like to do is I try not to have somewhere between 6 and 10 visuals, definitely no more, I'm gonna say definitely, but no more than 3 or 4 large visuals, and then maybe 6, smaller visuals being cards. Now, that doesn't work every time. And as you can see here, where on this particular page, the Delta Airlines logo is a visual, the calendar slider is a visual, the flight ID is a visual, and I've got 2 flight IDs here, so we'll get that taken care of as well. So it's on the first row, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 visuals. On the bottom row, we've got the open price, the low price, the high price, the close price, and the volume per that day. So that's 3, 5. So that's already 9 visuals. And then we've got a visual that we're coming across the middle of the section, with the middle of the page with, which is a clustered column at this point. So, that is 4, 9, that's 10 itself. So I guess what I'm saying is the aesthetics of how you assign the locations of the visualizations, that makes a difference. The size of the visualization, that makes a difference. We want, at the end of the day, it has to be aesthetically pleasing. The real estate has to be designed as such, so that the person that's using the report gets a good feel of, this is what a website or a web page looks like. This is a good visualization for this report. So, even here with the way that this report is designed right now, I think that this clustered column showing the month in the on the x-axis, and the delay minutes, and basically what we used was the delay table. The delay minutes are showing on the y-axis. As we saw, the open price, low price, high price, and close price are all showing the correct measures. We did not use that same measure for volume, but we did not create a measure for volume, but we did create the measure for open price, low price, high price, and close price. And if we select the date that's not within the date range of what was selected on on the calendar slider, it's showing a 0, but for the volume, it's still showing blank because we didn't create a measure for the volume. But here, you know, this is a relatively simple report at this point. You know, it's just a white background, and oftentimes, and what I come to find is more often than not, the client prefers to have that simple background, that simple white background. More often than not, they don't necessarily want to have that background with different colors and stuff like that. What we're doing here is we didn't bring in the month order table. We didn't bring in a month order table. So we brought in a month order table, and what we're going to do is we are going to build a relationship between month name, month number to our calendar table. Now, the reason why we create a month order table or the reason why we use the month order table is because we want to order the months the way that they are on the calendar and not just by alphabetical order. Many times we may create a table or create a visualization. That visualization may have dates on it, but the date may go from show the dates in alphabetical order as opposed to showing the dates in the order that they are shown by calendar year, being January being 1, May being 5, August being 8, December being 12. So we've created a table. We call it month order. We've got a column, month number and month name, and we've associated the month number with the month name. Then we are going to order this. We're gonna order the way that the months appear by the month number on our visualization. So here we see that we've got a visualization showing March, December, September, January, July. Nothing is in order here. So rather than using the table, rather than using the dates from the table, the dates from the table that's showing this order, we are going to use the new table showing the months to where it is showing the order of the month as it is supposed to by, as we see here, January, February, March, April, May, October being 10, December being 12. We're sorting by month number. We're going to sort by month number: January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. So now we see that this table is in order by month. Now we are going to select the year to test it out. 2022, there was no data. 2023, there was no data. 2024, we do have data. 2025, we have data. 2026, there's no data. 2027, there's no data because we are simply in 2025 as of today. But if we add additional dates for if we add additional dates for the delay table, we will have we will be able to see those dates as well. Now, again, looking here, we've got the volume, and the volume is showing us a blank. So we're going to use the same measure that we used before for open, low, high, and close, but use it for volume. Take out this original volume measure and add the new volume measure, because we want the volume to have the same result as our open, low, high, and close prices, to where if we're asking for a date that's not relevant or available, we want it to show 0 as opposed to showing blank. Now we're just going to add a little bit more width to the volume, because volume is a little different, and the number of characters needed for volume is slightly more than the number of characters needed for open, low, high, and close. So we're not going to change the width of each one of those. We're just going to change the width of the volume. So now as we select different years, 22, 23, there was no value. It was 0, 26, 27, there was no value. So it's going to be 0. So that came back great. And now we know that that data is accurate, and we know that the calendar is interacting with the all of the cards on the table as well. So now what we're doing is we're coming in and we are taking out the years that are not, we're filtering out the years that we don't want to see on this report. So we want to see 22, 23, 24, and 25. If it was 21, 26, and 27, we took that information out using the filters. So now again, it's about spacing. It's about real estate. It's that Power BI real estate that we are interested in now. We want to create that visual appeal, but at the same time, we want to show enough data. So just showing that one clustered column in delay minutes. So basically, that first clustered column, we're using the month name, and by month we are looking at the number of delay minutes. Minutes that the plane was delayed by minutes each month. So here we are going to be looking at a clustered column chart, and I know that there's something going on that's wrong here because we're looking at ticket count by ID by month, and ticket count ID, count the tickets by month. And I knew that there was something going on that was wrong. And what was different here was we were using a stack bar rather than a clustered bar. And on a bar chart, I like to use, this is not something that you have to do. This is something that I like to do. On a bar chart, I like to place the dates. I like to place dates in the on the y-axis, and then whatever I'm counting or aggregating, I like to place that on the x-axis. And totally opposite of the clustered bar is the clustered column. And on the clustered column, as you can see under delay for the delay minutes and the month name, on the clustered column, I like to use the dates on the x-axis and use whatever I'm aggregating. And on the clustered column chart, I'm using delay minutes. So I'm aggregating delay minutes. So I like to use whatever is being aggregated. I like to use that on the y-axis. The clustered column is directly opposite of the clustered bar. So if you select clustered column and then you accidentally select clustered bar in the visualizations while you are highlighting clustered column in the report, it's going to automatically change it from a clustered column to a clustered bar, and vice versa. If you selected clustered bar in the report and you accidentally select clustered column, I think what I said in the visualization, it's going to automatically change that report to be a clustered column, from a clustered column to a clustered bar, or a clustered bar to a clustered column. Just come back over to the data view, trying to visualize, just trying to see what other data we could use to that we may want to capture and visualize in this particular report. And I believe using a line chart would be data that we could use in this report. Now, a line chart is very similar to the data in a line chart is very similar to the data in a clustered column. And I want to say that if you create a line chart, and that line chart, if you highlight the line chart in the report, but you accidentally click the clustered column in the visualizations, it will change the visual from a clustered line to a clustered, from a line to a clustered column. And if you have a clustered column chart that's highlighted in the report, but you accidentally select line in the visualizations, it's going to change that clustered column to a clustered line, because not a clustered line, because the line's not clustered, to a line chart. The reason for that is a line chart and a column chart pretty much shows, can give you the same data if you're using, gives you the same data with a different visualization. It gives you the same visual. It helps you to analyze the data differently, or see it differently, for either using a line or using a clustered column. I just said a whole lot. You can play with it, and you'll see, once you play with it, because I know with me, I have to play with something before I really get a full effect of what it really does. But what I did here was I created a line chart using count of flight ID. So I counted the number of flights, and I used the flight ID and the month. And as you just saw, I highlighted the line chart, then I went back over, and then I highlighted the clustered column chart, and it automatically switched to the clustered column. But what I don't want to do is, in this particular case, I used a combination chart, the clustered column chart, the clustered column line chart. So basically, March, April, May. What I don't want to do is I don't want to show the same, I don't want to analyze the same data. Or I don't want to analyze two types of data, two types of analyzations. I don't know if that's really a word or not. Is that an analyzation? Is that a word? That may be a word. Analyzation, that sounds like a word, but I'm not sure. But I don't want to analyze data to where I'm showing too many column charts on the same report, definitely on the same page, and too many line charts on the same page. So what I am attempting to do here is use a visual that's going to show me the line chart. So now I am using a line chart, and I've got a column chart. So I'm using sum of delay minutes, which I use count of delay minutes in the initial visual using the clustered column. But I could probably use, given that I have a line chart, clustered column chart combination, the goal, what I'm trying to get to is I am trying to create a visual showing a clustered column and a line on the same visual. And what that does is it saves space. So the real estate that we use on the report, we can maximize the real estate for individual visuals, because we're able to show, we will be able to show multiple visualizations on the same visual, as opposed to having a page full of clustered columns, bars, and lines. But what I'm trying to do right here, before you even get to having the combo chart, is seeing what does the real estate look like. And of course, I don't like having a clustered column chart under another clustered column chart. I don't even like having a clustered column chart on the side of another clustered column chart. But right now, I've taken the bar chart and placed the bar chart below the clustered column. Does that feel good? Does that look good? I'm still toying with what we're going to do there. What are we going to do with this extra clustered column chart, even though they're not providing the same information? For instance, the cluster column at the bottom is showing a visualization of sum of delay minutes, and the visualization at the top is showing count of flights. So we're analyzing different values, but at the same time, you know, again, that graphic appeal, that graphic design effect, I don't feel real good about it, but we'll get that figured out. Coming back over to the model view, we want to make sure that our tables have the correct relationships. As we see here, we're getting a many to many relationship. So we don't want to have a many to many. Typically in relationships, we want to have either a many to one relationship or a one to many relationship. That's the conversation for a different day if you're not totally sure about one to many, many to many, and many to one. So what I did here is I just came over, I created a duplicate page, I created a new page, and you know, I am, rather than doing all of my creation of the visualizations on that page, I came over and I created a new page. And the reason why I created a new page is because I just want to see what is it going to take in order to create this combo chart, and that combo chart being a combo chart, and that combo chart being a clustered column line chart, to where I will be able to have a clustered column and line on the same visual. And you know, sometimes you just need a clean piece of paper, and basically that's all we did using creating a duplicate page. We just said, hey, we want to create a new report or a new page just so that we can get an idea. So now you can see here, I've got a clustered column and a line, and it really does not say a whole lot for what we are trying to visualize. We're saying count of flight ID and some delay minutes, and we got a column and a line, and I'm like, yeah, that's not exactly what we're trying to do. So, okay, we're getting closer by saying what we want to see on the x-axis and the y-axis and the line. So basically we have three values that we are inputting. We're inputting a value for the x-axis, and we're inputting an aggregated value for the y-axis, and an aggregated value and that's going to show us the column, and then we're showing an aggregated value for the y-axis, which is going to be a line. So now we see that we have delay minutes as a line chart, and we have flight ID, or the count of flights, on as a column, and the months is on the x-axis. So this is kind of where we want to be. So we're going to copy this table, and we're going to come back over. We're going to copy going to copy that chart and come back over to our original page. We're going to delete the cluster column and the line that we have in the original page, and we're just going to paste in the clustered column line chart combination. Now playing with the years, we can see how the months, how the years are affecting or interacting with the visualizations. We're not at 100% real estate, where we want to be on real estate, but we're getting a pretty good feel for what this chart would look like if we selected different years. And on this column line chart combination, what we're counting, or what we're aggregating on the y-axis, is counting the flights, and we're summing delay minutes by month. We're counting the flights, and we're summing the delay minutes by month. So we actually have, we're analyzing two different values here, rather than having two different charts. We're using one chart to show multiple well, not say multiple visualizations, but a combination of visualizations of how they interact with one another. So what we have here is the final report, the report in its final form, and I've already formatted the visualizations. But what I'm going to do is I formatted the visualizations separately. I've already formatted the visualizations, but I'm going to go through each visual so that you can see what I did in order to format these visualizations. The reason why I did this was, one, to save us some time, because I know we're getting we're getting, really off into how much time we've been here, and I really appreciate you for being here for this amount of time. But I'm just gonna go through the visuals so I can show you how I formatted the visuals. And primarily the reason why I chose the different colors that I chose, I really only chose two particular colors, and those colors being this burgundy type reddish, to kind of match the logo color here. I'm not exactly sure what the Delta Airlines colors are, but again, these are questions that you would ask in your initial conversations, or somewhere in the conversations before you finalize your report or attempt to finalize your report. And I kind of use this bluish, is that a navy bluish type color to match the logo. Again, you can find out the actual colors, but I just use these two colors to give us some consistency in color. That's why I chose these two colors, right? And I'll show you what the colors are that I chose. Again, they won't exactly match what the Delta colors are, because again, this is not an official report from Delta Airlines. Again, I didn't get paid to create this report for Delta Airlines. I'm just using this as a teaching tool so that you will have some idea or create some familiarity with the report to go along with a particular company. Rather than starting at the top, I'm going to start at the bottom. I'm going to start on the bottom row on the cards, because all of the cards are going to have the same effect. So I'm going to highlight the card so you can see what how it was formatted. It's not necessarily it's going to save us some time, because we don't have to necessarily go through each one of the cards, because each one of the cards are going to be formatted exactly the same way. So what I am going to do is I'm going to come over to the format pane, and I am going to select general effects. I'm going to come down to visual border, and I am going to take off the border and take out the shadow. So basically we see now, and I'm going to take off, let's see, general effects, visual border, no. So this is the actual, this open visual, which was a card visual. This is how this is what the visual actually looked like before we did the formatting, which if we unhighlight it, it just blends right into the page. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to give it this effect. I wanted to have an outline. I wanted to have the colors to be the values to be what they are, and a title, as opposed to having it at the bottom. At the bottom, if you see the title at the bottom, it's really not a title at the bottom. It's called I think it's the setting header, and maybe even the setting title. But the title that we really wanted to have would be at the top of the card. So what I did was I went over, let's take out the title, let's go over to visual, and let's go to category label. So the category label, what we saw initially was this open price, right? So rather than seeing this open price, what I wanted to do is I wanted to have open at the top of this card visual. So in order to do that, what I had to do was highlight the visual, which is the card, come over to format, take out the category label, come over to general, add a title, and then in title I put open. So now the title shows up, And then the text color of the title was here. Initially, that text color was black. It was not bolded. And it was there. So I just clicked bold. I selected text color. And I don't remember what that text color was. So this is a good time now for me to show you how to, what colors I use. So the text color I used was this particular color here. So I'm going to copy this hex color and I'm going to come over to the title and I'm going to select it. And now it's that color. The value itself was not this color blue. It was actually black. I don't remember exactly what this blue color was. So I'm going to select this card and I'm going to come over and I'm going to see what is that color blue. I'm going to select it. I can go to more colors. I can copy that hex color. But given that given that it's the last color I selected, I'm probably not going to have to place the hex color in. I can just go into color and select it and boom, it changes to that color. Now, the next thing that I did was I said, hey, I wanted this to have an outline. So I selected the card visual, came over to format, went to general, went to effects. I went down to visual border because the visual border is this black outline here. I went down to visual border, and in the visual border, I selected visual border and I want to see the border. So I said, I want rounded corners. The width of the border is going to be 1. I want rounded corners, and this visual, the rounded corner I typically use is 10. So now I've got a rounded corner, and then I want this to show a shadow effect such as we're seeing here. And I come down to go back over to format. I go to general, I go to effects, I go to shadow, and I say, hey, I want to see a shadow. One thing that I do see that I didn't change in the formatting is this border is actually black. And my question is, do I want a black border or do I want this border to match this bluish color? So this is something that I didn't change initially. I'm just going to come here and play with it now. And I'm going to come back over to effects and I'm going to go to visual border. And I want to change the color of that border and see if I like that color better. And as a matter of fact, I do. So what I am going to do is I'm everywhere where I have a visual, where I have a shadow and a shadow and a visual border, I'm going to change my visual borders to be the same colors as blue. I think that's a better effect than just having a black border. That's something that I didn't catch initially. So I'm going to come over to each one of my visuals. On the bottom row, I'm going to select general, effects, visual border, and I'm going to change those border colors. Given that this is the last color I selected, it's going to already be here. And given that this is these card visuals are all the same visuals, being card visuals, I don't have to select general and format and go in. It's automatically taking me to the location. So I am just changing these border colors. And for the cluster column line chart, I am going to have to, that visual border, again, it's going to be in that location as well. So I can just come here and I can select the last color selected. And now I see that visual border, those colors are the same. I just like that better. You might like the black better, I don't know, but I just like that. I like to have that consistency in color is what I really like. Now, the way that we formatted the card here is how we will format each one of these cards. If we come, the next format change that we made was in the column line chart, So I am going to highlight the column line chart and I want to show you how I created how I formatted this particular visual. So I'm going to come back over to format. I'm going to select I'm going to select, let's see, format. We should have effects here. Let's go to general, effects. Let's see, visual border effects, visual border. We're going to take out the rounded corners, take out the width. Like that width is minimum 1. And we're going to, that visual border color, we know it was black. We know it was black, but we've already figured out how to change the color of the visual border. So I'm gonna leave the border the color that it is. And I'm gonna take the shadow out. So now we know how we changed the color of this border and how we added the color to this border. Because we did it down here as we were showing the card, but creating the shadow effect. Well, let's do this. Let's take the color out altogether. Let's do it all together. Let's see, effects, visual border. So now this is how this visual looked initially. We added a line, we added a visual border to it. So basically I want to highlight it, and I'm going to go to format. Let's see, format, general, effects, and then I'm going to go to visual border. And now it's showing me the border, and I want this border to have rounded corners, just as we did in the card visual. We're going to say, hey, give us 10-point rounded corners, the 10 pixel rounded corners. And we see now we are going to have the rounded corners. I'm going to come back. I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to format. I'm going to go to general, over to effects. I'm going to go to shadow on. And now I see I've got a shadow that is a background shadow. This shadow could be any color that you want. We just changed the color of the shadow. I kind of like that's kind of cool. So we got like a reddish shadow here. And what if I made this a bluish shadow rather than the reddish shadow, the black shadow? So let's come back down to the card, and I'm gonna go to general, effects, shadow is already on. Say I select the blue shadow for the cards, and I've got the red shadow for the column line chart. Gives a slightly different effect. It wasn't in the original version of the final report, but that's cool, because at least we're getting to see what we can actually do when it comes to creating Power BI visuals. If we go to general and title, initially this title says flight ID and delay minutes by month. Given that I know that this is already in months, I'm going to change this title to flight ID and delay minutes. I'm going to call it flight, and because I know ID is referring to a flight, so I'm just going to say this is flight delay minutes. So I don't have to say flight ID and delay minutes by month, because I know it's by month here, and I've got the title is flight delay minutes. So this, what I'm getting from this is that it's the total number of flight delay minutes by month. And of course, it's going to be an aggregation of all of the flight IDs, or the count of all the flight IDs. So that's something that we just caught here. Now, the consistency in the shadow, this is kind of bothering me, this reddish background. So I'm going to change that back to blue, so it'll be the same as the card to keep it consistent. Let's see. Oh, that's title, effects, shadow. I'm going to make it blue. Yeah, there we go. I feel a little better about that one. Now we didn't make any, well, we did make changes to the slicers. The changes that we made to the slicers, one, we had 2 flight IDs. Now we have 1 flight ID and 1 flight number. So we are able to select the flight ID and we can select the flight number. One thing I see here is we have a blank column here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select flight number and I want to take that blank out. I'm going to come over to filter. I'm going to select all and then take out the blank. And now I see that I only have flight numbers and no blank column there. So that's one thing that I didn't take out originally, but it's taken out now. I can select the eraser and it brings us back to our original data. But for all of the slicers, just like we did with the cards, I can show you how to format one card. We don't have to format each individual card because each card is formatted the same way, same text, same bold, same value, same height, same everything. So in the slicers, for instance, the slicer for the year and the slicer for flight ID and flight number, the formatting is the same. So what we are going to do here is we're going to select the slicer. We're going to come over to format. And if we take out the header, actually we used the header. We didn't use the title for the slicer. We kept the header in and we changed the color from the black that it was black. We just selected the blue color here. And then for the values, we went down to values and we said, hey, rather than using black, we want to use this particular red color, right? And we did that for each one of the slicers. And that pretty much is all that we did when we did the final formatting for the slicer and for the cards. For the clustered line chart and for the, let's see, I think we did the clustered line chart, but I don't think that we showed you the column and the lines and how that was formatted. So if we go to format and we come down to columns, we can see that the original column color was black, or it was maybe this color blue. We just changed it to this color blue here. And for our line, which is going to be right below it, we said that, let's see, y-axis, where's that line at? Column, lines, series. Now this is not oh, here we go. So the line we have is red. I think the line, let's just say for simplicity, I want to give it this pink color so we can see it change. All we did was we came down to color and we selected the color that we wanted to use for the line. Now, sometimes it's a little confusing as to find, how to find the values for the text values. And what I do, I just come over to these 3 ellipses. I select expand all categories. And now I'll be able to see everything that has this particular color will have all the different colors. So I expanded all categories. I'm gonna go back up to the top. I'm gonna come down and now I see that the values is going to be this color. So what is that referring to? Let's make it this color and see. So that is the actual values at the bottom. So I just select the color that I want to use. And that is on the X axis. And then if I go to the Y axis, I've got color for the values, and let's just show you where those values are. They're there at 0 and at 500, but I want it to be this reddish color. Boom. Same thing for the for the clustered bar chart. The values, I select the clustered bar chart, and the values on the x-axis. Well, yeah, the values on the x-axis we see are here, and these are the colors that I changed. So I'm going to change it back to this reddish color. And if I come up to the y-axis, the values here, which are the months, if I select this blue, now we can see what values are changing. And I'm going to change it back to this reddish color. So that pretty much is it as to creating and formatting the chart for Delta Airlines. This is it. So once again, if you made it all the way to the end, I want you to put in, I want you to go over to my Instagram, which is Power of the BI. Go to my Instagram, Power of the BI, and I want you to comment, made it. Just comment, made it. Go to my Instagram and comment, made it. So I'll know that you stuck with us all the way to the end of this lesson here in creating a Power BI report. So once again, thank you for joining in, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next video.